Councillor Osborne, if you'd like to kick off.
Question number 1 to the leader, please.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, I thank Councillor Osborne for his question. And the answers, the first bit of the answer is much as is printed in various tables. What surprises me about Councillor Osborne's questions is a fairly regular occurrence, is that having opposed every single cost-cutting and efficiency measure, he then has the temerity and hypocrisy to say that we would launch a commission on low council tax. This is a party that, having tried to raise council tax and failed, and then in order to win popular support, tried to freeze council tax and failed, and then tried to cut council tax and failed, and now decided that to launch a commission, and by calling it a commission, it will have some gravitas, and it will be all important and will be sorted. Well, of course, it won't be, because at the bottom of it is, we know, our residents know, and anyone else who cares to know, is that the mess we are in is entirely down to his party's handling of the finances. The idea that they could come out with some sort of novel way of creating a low tax council is laughable.
Councillor Osborne.
Well, the council leader is very free with the term hypocrisy. I ask him, where's the hypocrisy here then? Between the political party that in 2010, 2006, 2002 went into the local council election saying they'd keep the council tax where it was. So for over a decade that's been our position. Today we launch a commission for the Wandsworth Labour Party, which will tell us just how far we can go on spending if we were to come to power, how many of their cuts we could restore, and we will go no further than they advise us. Or a political party that bleats on about how they keep council tax low all the time, and they come to us with an answer this evening saying actually what they're doing is trying to find ways of increasing it, just as they voted back at the last council tax setting meeting when we voted to freeze and they voted to increase.
Seconds.
I thank Councillor Osborne for a supplementary. Hypocrisy is an interesting one, isn't it? It is their party which launched one of those campaigns of, we'd like to pay more. And what happened to that campaign? Nobody paid more voluntarily, but they just simply said, we'd like to pay more. The hypocrisy is that this is a commission that is going to look at charges. Well, the charges can only go up or down. If they go down, you can't actually then create a low council tax, can you? Because you would still have to balance the book. I suspect the bottom line will be, the Commission will tell them that if you want to balance the book, you have to be responsible. And to be responsible will be a new thing for them to do.
Mr. Supplementary question to the leader. Would the leader agreement with me that there is hypocrisy here? Because when the Labour Party last had control of this council, what happened every time, every year, they kept on putting up the council tax and the taxes for local taxpayers. And ever since this party has been in control, for the last 35
Councillor Govindia.
I thank Councillor Heaster for his supplementary, and of course Councillor Heaster, more than anyone in this council, both knows the history of what the other side was up to and the challenges that he faced when he came to take control of this council, and the way in which he has delivered over the last 35 years the stewardship of our finances means that we actually have the kind of balances that they want to try and nab at.
Question 2.
Question number 2 to the leader, please.
Councillor Osborne for his question, and it's quite a detailed answer which is set out. But the key to the government changes on the planning laws was entirely driven by wanting to make sure the high streets had lower vacancy rates. And that's why we welcome those changes, and in fact Wandsworth's record of shop vacancies is admirable. We have less vacant shops than any other borough. And then he asks me, what am I going to do about protecting our town centre? And I thought I'd tell you a lot more. And in fact, the Chancellor is going to do something tomorrow, isn't he? He's going to actually freeze business rates, which is going to be good for our high street. And that's, in addition to that, what are we doing? We have revitalised Clapham Junction with the kind of exemplar scheme which makes Clapham Junction a joy to shop in. Look around Wandsworth Town, we have enabled enormous amount of planning, generated development, redevelopment, bringing new shops and new vitality to the town centre. We have campaigned and successfully campaigned to improve the air quality in Putney Town Centre, and Tooting too is seeing new initiatives in terms of business interest and investment interest, and soon we will find that Tooting is also catching up. Balham is already an incredibly vibrant town centre and a joy to shop and spend the evening in it. I'll also tell you what more we're doing. We are supporting Dan Watkins' campaign for Love Your Local. It's a campaign that is going great guns, and I have to say it's such a campaign that has already found imitation in Mr. Khan's campaign. I guess he's running a bit scared. But you know, one of those interesting things about loving your local is about actually protecting our town centre, and I hope that Mr. Khan at some point will be innovative rather than imitative.
Councillor Osborne.
Supplementary question. Very robust answer to what was, I thought, a reasonable question, asking if he shared my concern. But if he thinks that the two campaigns which he referred to are so similar, actually he's got the timing wrong, because Sadiq Khan's campaign started first, but never mind. If he thinks that the two campaigns, Sadiq Khan's campaign and the copy of it from certain Dan Watkins, are both broadly the same, will he guarantee to me tonight that he will support both campaigns?
Well, this council has a long-standing record of supporting our town centres. We have treated all 5 town centres equally. We have campaigned to make sure that they are loved by local residents, invested in by those who own property in it, and we have supported through the EDO as many initiatives as we can to make sure that the shops and the businesses that are in our town centres remain vibrant. Actually, looking around our town centres and comparing them with other town centres in neighbouring boroughs, I'm often surprised how vibrant our town centres are. More needs to be done, and of course we'll continue to do more. But one thing I would say is that if Mr. Khan's campaign was launched first, it was very quietly launched, and not very many of us knew about it.
Supplementary, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note in the leader's answer that he comments that the number of betting shops in the borough are lower than the inner London average. And I wonder if he'd care to comment on whether he believes that's down to the council's long-running and very successful town centre management scheme, which officers will be presenting to the DCLG, who've been taking an interest in how it works in Wandsworth because they see it as so successful. And would he share my opinion that rather than prescription or prohibition of businesses, which also means prescription or prohibition of what residents can do in their own leisure time, it is instead better to be business friendly and to create an attractive and vibrant town centre which benefits us all.
Instead of banning something and banning other things, we have to actually promote what is good for our town centre, and that we have done in great abundance. Our town centre managers are very much part of the local community and do enormous amount of work making sure that our town centre is loved and actually ones where people find what they want to shop for, what they want to go to town centres for. And I'm very pleased that DCLG takes an interest in it. Not that long ago, a conversation with the planning minister about how to make sure that town centres had some focus. I've learned from our planning department in saying that the long strung out shops at the edges of town centres, which are very marginal, it's better that they had to change of use to residential, to concentrate the town centre into a hub where it provides a focus for the community. So in many ways we have done what we can and sent an exemplar for elsewhere to follow.
Councillor Nichols.
Question 3 to the Leader, please.
I thank Councillor Nichols for her question, and of course we're going to have a very substantive debate on the resident survey. But one thing I would say to Councillor Nichols, that I know that she's out regularly in Roehampton with many other colleagues, and I know that she engages with the residents of Roehampton forever, making sure that their voices are heard and represented here. And it is that level of engagement and that kind of interaction with our residents that drives up satisfaction levels.
Councillor Nichols.
May I thank the Leader for his answer. Does the Leader join me in deploring the scaremongering from the opposition over the savings, which have frightened vulnerable people?
Leader.
Well, I have to thank Councillor Nichols for a supplementary. One thing I'd say to Councillor Nichols is you should never be surprised about the opposition's scaremongering tactics. They have never got the interests of the vulnerable at heart. If it means that they have got some way of milking it for an electoral advantage, they will stoop to no level low enough to do that.
Is there a second supplementary? Councillor Carpenter.
Would Councillor Nichols please give details of this alleged scaremongering, because I know nothing of it. I don't think she should make allegations which are unsubstantiated.
Leader.
I know sometimes I feel that there may be more people in this council chamber capable of leading the majority side, and even Councillor Nichols could be leader of this group, but at the moment she's not, and she's not answerable to you.
Right, we come to item 4. Councillor Daly.
That's me, yeah. Question 4 to the Leader.
I thank Councillor Daly for his question, and the answer is as printed.
First, I'd like to say I think it's astonishing that the majority party has let this drag on for over a year, bringing the council into disrepute. We're told to believe that these allegations relate to things that happened before May 2010. We have only the Leader's printed words here, but we know there's considerable division amongst the party. And I believe it had been reported at one stage that one of the allegations was that Councillor Norris had held on to deposits relating to the election of councillors in this chamber, and if that's the case, he must have held on to them afterwards. But either way, whatever these allegations are, they're obviously serious. He's been chucked out of the party. He ran the Leader's election campaign, I understand. Chucked out of the group, sorry, not the party. I believe he ran the Leader's election campaign. I believe he ran the Leader's campaign to be leader of his party, and I think that shows an incredible lack of judgment on the Leader's behalf. I'd like him to categorically state that he will bring this to an end and tell us what has happened, because I think this council needs to know it, and if we don't find out now, this will drag on for month after month and continue to bring Wandsworth Council into disrepute.
Leader.
Mr. Mayor, I'd say to the majority party that should never rely on Councillor Daly to utter facts, because his question has a misfact in there. Philip Hammond is not the member of Parliament anywhere near Wandsworth, so a man who's so slippery with his facts cannot really be relied on. I'd also have to say that he's the kind of person that I would be fearful of meeting in a dark night.
Second supplementary. Does the Leader share my surprise that the opposition have chosen to comment on this Conservative Party internal matter? Does he think it's because they don't want to talk about the new jobs being created in this borough, the new homes being built in this borough, the new schools opening in this borough, and because they can't talk about those substantive issues that residents care about, they want to go on about party tittle-tattle?
I thank Councillor Jacob for his supplementary. I'd say that it reminds me of that saying that empty vessels make loud noise.
I've got item 5, Councillor Nadelli.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question 5 to the Leader, please.
I thank Councillor Nadelli for her question. Actually, Mr. Mayor, with your indulgence, I'd like to take slightly longer in answering this question because today is an exceptionally good news for Wandsworth. The Chancellor's statement, which is to be released tomorrow and trailed today, talks about the Northern Line extension being now firmly agreed between GLA and landowners, and we can now have a situation where not only is the commitment there, but there is money in the bank to pay for the diggers to start that work. Enormous achievement by this council, and it's great news for Battersea, great news for Wandsworth, great news for London. In the same announcement, there is talk of the Heathrow Southern Rail access is something that, again, this council had campaigned for. Members will remember AirTrack and AirTrack Lite, and only last week I had a number of landowners in my room talking about how we would take forward the AirTrack Lite model, and lo and behold, we have a commitment from the Chancellor to fund the study, and that will give us 30-minute connectivity between Clapham Junction and Heathrow, making sure that Nine Elms becomes really, truly an international hub within this borough and becomes an emerging district for London. Equally, the Gatwick capacity study means that Gatwick is 30 minutes from Clapham Junction, making it incredibly easy for our residents and our businesses and new investors to see both Clapham Junction and Nine Elms as virtually the centre of southern London, where investment opportunities, job opportunities, and the kind of opportunities Councillor Jacobs mentioned earlier will all come to us. It's initiatives like that by this council and on relatively small budgets, and it is kind of the most effective use of this council's soft power that has delivered us this amazing changes and amazing investment in our borough.
First
Supplementary.
Councillor Ndedeli. First supplementary. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I agree, those are very exciting developments, particularly the Northern Line extension. But I think residents are entitled to ask, what's in it for them, naturally. And question 20 later on reveals that less than 20% of the new homes in Nine Elms will be affordable for local people to rent or buy. So what does the leader think the average resident makes of the prices being charged, up to and including £30 million for the Battersea Power Station penthouses? Could the council not have got a better deal for our existing residents?
Leader.
Thank Councillor Hogg for his supplementary, and he asks, what is it in for the local residents? What is in for the local residents is jobs. It's opportunities of jobs, training. There are jobs for 20-odd years in the construction boom that is opening up on the northern part of this borough. Those are the opportunities for our residents, and we are making sure that those opportunities are there for us, our young people, to take. We're making sure that there is training to go hand in hand with those skill needs that are emerging. Those are the kind of opportunities that we are striving for. And actually, Councillor Hogg, one of those things you must remember, and perhaps you might want to tell your Commission, is that in any development there is a finite amount of money that is available to do things other than build whatever the planning permission is given for. And that finite sum of money can either be delivered in making a Northern Line extension work possible, or it can be delivered in making housing possible. And without Northern Line, you cannot get the kind of quantum of development you need, and without Northern Line, you can't get the scale of investment and international interest that you need. Now, you cannot have everything at the same time, and perhaps the very simple fact that the pot is finite and you have to make choices is something that you might want to tell your Commission.
Second supplementary.
Councillor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the leader agree with me that Councillor Johnson's statement that says our local people in this borough can only afford subsidised housing of one form or another is completely untrue?
Not only is it not true, but it is also not aspirational. People are being told that the only thing that is good enough for them is subsidised housing. That is almost the same as what Councillor Nichols earlier talked about, scaring people who are vulnerable. People need to be aspired, and we are the party that aspires, and they are the party that damps people's aspirations.
Councillor Daly.
Sorry,
I
the quote
apologise. It
which
was
you-
Councillor Hogg who made the silly accusation.
Question 6 to the Leader.
I thank Councillor Daly for his question, and the answer is as printed.
Supplementary. I understand that, I thank the Leader for his answer, but I understand that people in the Housing Department, obviously of which the Director was overseeing till very recently, who are being laid off are getting offered a week for every year that they've been employed by the Council. Now, it might well be council policy that we pay directors 160 grand to walk off into the sunset, but I would say the council policy is unfair and expensive, and the Leader it's well within his grasp to change it. Would he commit to reforming it and reconsidering it?
Leader.
I think Councillor Daly's got this wrong in that it is the same policy that applies to directors as it applies to all staff. At the subcommittee where the decision on the former director of housing's package was decided upon, his leader talked about not wanting anything to do with discretionary payment across the board. And yet we on this side feel it's right and proper that staff who are laid off as a result of reductions in budgets that we have to do as a result of their mismanagement of the economy, we must make sure that the staff have a decent and a reasonable compensation. The fact that the compensation is tied with what was the final salary of an individual inevitably means that those packages won't be the same for everyone.
Yes, I mean, Mr. Mayor, I would normally agree with Councillor Daly that giving away discretionary payments, one has to be extremely careful. One only has to think about the National Health Service and the various lazy contracts entered into by the previous Labour government to see the effect of Labour attitude to discretionary payments. But I think on this occasion that the Roy Evans was a superb Director of Housing. He worked for the council for the last 33 years. He did a superb job as a housing director, and indeed he, on his retirement, he had an excellent party, which even a former housing man called Councillor Belton showed up and said a few words. So I think we could feel that on this occasion that Mr. Roy Evans thoroughly deserved his discretionary payment.
Oh, yeah, discretionary payment. Point of personal explanation, Madam Mayor. After all, I was quoted. Was that Dane to turn up? I was an honoured guest. Mr. Evans wanted me to be there and talk, as I did on several occasions. And Mr. Evans and I have gone on very well for years. But I don't think Mr. Evans would claim that was justification for having a pension about 20 times higher than some of his staff. He actually was quite a fair-minded guy. Given the position he was in, of course he accepted it. But I still think he would believe that what the other staff got wasn't fair.
Thank you, Councillor. Now over.
Sorry, just going to reply to Councillor Tom.
Sorry, I thought that was...
I don't have a way of knowing what Roy Evans thinks, but the one thing I do know is that his esteem for the opposition wasn't particularly high because not many of them were invited to his final farewell. I would also say that the package for him is nothing to do with the esteem in which we hold him. It is entirely to do with the proper management of the policy of this council to say to any staff who has been made redundant is that there is a discretionary payment award that's been in place for many, many years. And it is part of council policy, and an employee is entitled to feel as part of his contract. And I am surprised that a party that was once a party of workers is now trying to say that we could unilaterally take something away from them, although they might have grown used to the fact that it is written into their contract.
Not explanation, if I may. I was invited to Roy Evans. I was invited to.
Okay,
Roy Evans leaving do, as many councillors in this room were. And that's not really the point that we were discussing.
Councillor.
Which number order?
Councillor.
All right, so I haven't got mine here, but
councillors,
nonetheless...
can we... This is getting frivolous now, so can we actually continue with the meeting?